Hey guys, it's JH. Oh. And it's a forgetful JH. Guys, I drove out of my house today and I was talking to somebody and I had my clubs outside the car and in the garage, and I just came down here with no golf clubs. You believe it? Left them in the garage. So I just went, and everybody, all the pros here today, all their clubs, they're out away and there's no clubs here. And I just went up into the higher clubs, and guys, this is going to be a test of JH's adaptability and this golf swing, how it will perform under all types of conditions. There were some old golf clubs there, 25-year-old, maybe 30-year-old Hippo brand from England. The first Hippo cavity backs I ever made. Just old steel shafts, skinny little grips. I mean, I use oversized grips. These are as slick as can be. Steel shafts, ultra flat lies. But we're going to put them to the test with the Channel Lock Frankenstein Bruin golf swing. I mean, they're just ancient, just old, you know, like probably $5 shafts, absolutely stiff as you wouldn't believe. Got a 6-iron here, guys. Got a 6-iron and a 4-iron. Okay, so it'll be a good test, a really good test. I mean, a super test. Okay. Now, the whole objective of the Bruin swing for me is to try and get that look here. Now, when I do that here, and I do it and not in a golf swing, what do I feel? You know what I feel? This hand, I feel this hand does that. To keep the toe of that club out there, I feel that my hand does this. It does this under. Now, we see a lot of that in Bruin. If you look at Bruin, he looks like he does that. He looks like he does that. Then he recovers at the top. But he actually looks like he does that. And I wonder if he wasn't doing that. I wonder if he wasn't doing that. Now the lofts on these look really weak, guys, compared to, like today's lofts are like, two clubs stronger than they were back 30 years ago. But this is what and this was Hippo's movement into the marketplace with high-tech golf clubs. It's sort of like a hollow back, cavity back thing with a little central weight port in it. Actually pretty high tech for the time. It'd be amazing. It'll probably just, I should have my mouth guard here that I use for sparring, because this is going to jar all my jaw and my teeth, I think. Anyway guys, what I'm going to try and do is I'm actually going to try and do that. That's how it keeps it out there. Now see this here? When I do that, it forces this orientation of this trail arm. It forces that in there. If I do that, this trail arm stays down. I want this up. I want that. I want that feeling. And as usual, someone's turned the wind farm on. Really strong. It's a headwind here across it, so it's just blowing the ball that way. Okay, guys. This will be interesting. This club feels so awful. Looking down, it's so flat, and it's just... Okay, so what I'm going to try and do, that. That's what I'm going to try and do. That's what I want to feel. We saw that in Jimmy. We saw this look, didn't we? So, that's what he looked like, huh? That's what he looked like. That's what I'm going to try and do. But be interested to see how far these go compared to my tailors, because they're probably a club and a half weaker in the lofts. You look down on that, it just looks, there's so much loft on it compared to a normal 6-iron. Okay, come on. Wow. Well, that's interesting, because there's plenty of loft on it. It goes pretty high. Because I didn't feel, okay, it felt, there's no shock absorbing in this at all. Not like the tailors and all the other types of clubs. There's none in this. But I mean, that was strange enough. Even flat lie, that was just flush in the centre. And it just went perfect. Into that, up there guys with the range ball, that's probably, you're probably, probably about the length that I hit my, like a really soft 7-iron with my tailors. See here. Oh, you've got to believe it. That is just, that's the purest feeling off the face. Not so much the club, but the way the club goes. Guys, it feels like this. It feels like the club's there. That's what I feel, because this lead hand is doing this. That's what it feels like. And really, to keep the club out there, oh, excuse me. No, I haven't got the virus. I've just got, again, guys, whenever I drink orange juice, it's amazing. It's got to be the citric acid. So, what am I trying to do? And I'm going to hit some shots down range with that old golf club and that 4-iron and see what it looks like. See if we are getting here. But that flight's beautiful. I mean, beautiful. And these are skinny old slick grips. Yeah, I think these were the first ones, I think probably about 1990. So it's 30 years old. I remember when Ian Woosnam came to Australia for the Australian Open in about 88 or something like that. He was talking then about he was going to get sponsored by Hippo the next year because they were starting out. So that was about the time. So guys, these are ancient golf clubs. Let me tell you guys, with no exaggeration, that ball's 1 metre away from the other ball on the ground. 1 metre. And this is flat lie, skinny grips, shafts that you could put a 30-storey building up on and put concrete around it because that's stiffer than any rebar. There's not even a designation on it whether it's stiff or regular. It's just got OMG. Oh my God. That's what it is. Oh my God, they're stiff. It's just exquisite golf shot. What are we doing? What are we doing? We're doing this. As much as I can. That's what I'm doing. Oh, you've got to see this to believe it. There's 3 in a row. They've landed within a metre of each other. And the ball flight's exactly the same. That's amazing. Absolutely, I don't know, can't get my head around that. These clubs are so much flatter than I normally play. And, well, looking at Jimmy, his clubs didn't look that flat. Who knows? But look at that for a lie, guys. Look. Mine are normally there, these are here. But that's interesting. With that flat lie, my hands down more and I can pressure down more in the backswing. Ooh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Technically, that's very interesting. Come on, Chase. There's 4 in a row. I just wish I had a camera up there. That's madness. 30-year-old golf clubs. Nowhere near my specification. Heavy, stiff, skinny grips, slick grips. But the good thing about that, guys, this is maybe, you know, of course the equipment probably doesn't make any difference. It's the swing. Oh, come on, come on. You can't step up with these old golf clubs in a ripping left to right wind here and just hit those balls out there straight like that. You can't do that. Yet I'm doing it. This is not, look, what sport could you ever involve yourself in that has this type of stuff that can happen and goes on? There isn't any. Check the audio, JH. You were still firing. You couldn't, and that's why I love it, guys. Even the days that I feel really things are driving me nuts, I come out here and it's amazing therapy. Because you never know what's going to eventuate. You just don't know what's going to happen. I couldn't imagine that this could happen. I couldn't imagine it. What are we doing? That. Club's doing that. That's what it feels like. You know, when I talked early on in the early videos of Bruin a couple of weeks ago, I said we want to have this feeling. Well, how do we get that feeling? Get that feeling by having this feeling. That feeling. That's how we get it. That's just crazy. Crazy. And I can't feel the head on these clubs at all because they're not, shaft doesn't bend. It's just not bending, I can't feel it. And the grip is so thin that it's actually, you know, creating some issues in my hand with with pressure and some nerves here because my hands are closing up so much. Good test of me and the swing. Oh my goodness. You know, it's interesting, there's a full set of these clubs up in the storeroom at the range down there. Full set. Down to Sandine. Probably buy them for $10. Got here 30-year-old clunkers. It probably, you know, it'd be good for put a dozen of them together and use them as a boat anchor. That's what most people would use them for. But if somebody was standing up, they wouldn't know it was the story here. They wouldn't know this story was happening. Because those balls coming down up there are like they're just coming down from you know, the best golf clubs that you can hit a golf ball with. I mean, that's what they must look like. Come on. Here we go. Come on, Chase. Nice and smooth. Oh. That's... Now, the club is clearly weaker than my 6-iron, so it won't go anywhere near. Well, it's at least a club shorter than mine. But it's surprising. I know where my clubs land up there, and yeah, there's probably 10 yards difference. But when I get up. They may not be when I get up there. It's surprising. I mean, the carry is fantastic because they're going higher because they've got more loft. It looks like a 7-iron when I look down on it. That's such a pretty flight. You can feel the spin when you hit it. You can feel it. Trying a couple of different video settings, guys. You notice lately in videos you get up and losing. We're just working with the people that I have my audio from, and they're sending me up some new units, and we're doing some different settings. Because there's a lot of microwave out here, and we're trying to get channels that the microwaves from the airport don't affect. What's that got to do with the golf swing, Jage? Just an interlude. All right, now the wind is really hard left to right. They're going out there, guys, like that, and they're just peeling, just banking, just falling into the ground. Wow. Got to see that grouping. Wow. I mean, it's madness. I mean, how do you do that with 30-year-old golf clubs? But in their day, they would have been high tech. I mean, they look like an actually very thin face, and they actually feel like a thin face. Just show you what they look like. See that little port there? They're quite high tech for the day. Come on, Jay. Just lost the grip on that, guys, because it's so thin. As I came down, it just came completely out of my hands. I mean, I almost lost it out of my hand because it's so thin. Now, they wouldn't have put any papers under these. They would have just pushed it straight on the shaft. It's just so thin. And what that does is it makes me hang on very tightly because the grip feels like it's just going, I'm going to lose the grip. I just feel like I'm going to lose it. So that makes me grab a little bit in the downswing. Come on, get the timing better. That's just fantastic. You know what's very interesting with these golf clubs? I think these would be a golf club that would hit the ball straight. They don't feel like they've got the toe wants to do anything or the heel wants to do it. It just feels like it wants to come through straight, and the ball flight is dead straight. It's only the wind just drifting it just at the end. But they have no feeling of, you know, heel or toe, the toe staying back or coming forward. It just feels like it comes through like that. So maybe that little weight port they've got in the centre there is Man, it's interesting that the sweet spot dead in the centre of the blade. I mean, right in the centre. Come on, James, put a good swing on it. Put a good one on it. Wow. And it's hard because I'm trying to hang on, and it's affecting my, you know, my tempo because I'm gripping really hard. Come on, Jay. Guys, they're just not moving. And when I hit some downrange, you'll see that. They're not moving. And we'll be heading into a crosshead wind of significance. Get straight on, JH. Can't hit it straighter than that. Isn't it amazing that, you know, technology, these feel entirely different to my golf clubs. But back in the day, we wouldn't have known the new feel. So these would have felt, you know, eminently acceptable. But it's just beautiful feel. Well, certainly not like my club, but it just, and this is probably a very hard material, a very hard stainless steel. But that's just a perfect golf shot. It just pulled that a little bit because I choked off the backswing, but only, you know, 2 or 3 yards. Just didn't give myself a chance to gather like we were trying to do yesterday. See it hit, Jays, come on. Foveal vision. Now if I could just get the club to just settle a little bit and gather a little bit at the top, like that. Well, I mean, there's not a lot of gather there, but I mean, it felt like it was almost pausey a little bit. Come on, James. Gee, that's a good shot, guys. That's just clipped. Absolutely clipped. And because the grips are so thin, I'm finding it very difficult to apply the trail hand with the trail hand smash because the grips are really thin and I can't apply a lot of pressure because of that. But I'll try. Wow. Oh, that's just flown that group of balls by, I must have had a bit of grass between, that's just flown that group of balls by 12, 15 yards. It just was downtown, but I did hit that really, really strongly with the trail hand. I really did hammer that. Gee, that was a nice feel, guys. Where's my buddy? Where's my buddy? This is interesting. What am I doing? I'm doing that. Turning that down. Turning that as much as I can. Probably doesn't look like that, and when we hit down range, it probably won't look like that, but it sure feels like that. And something's going on because the ball's going brilliantly. Amazingly. Oh God, that's as good as any shot I could hit with my clubs. Now notice lately, I've noticed on the video, clubs coming through and banging me in the back. So there's a lot of acceleration here because they're coming through and getting me here. Greg Norman used to do that in his early days. We used to watch him up at Royal Queensland. I was there one day, I was hitting off at 10 o'clock and he was practicing beside the starters box there, and he's hitting 2 irons and 1 irons down to beside the first green, and we went round and we played the front 9, went in and finished the round. We were in carts and it probably took us about 3.5 hours, and we came back and we walked in and he was still there practicing, only hitting 2 clubs, 1 irons and 2 irons. He'd been there for like 4 hours. Just hitting 1 iron and 2 iron. And those old Spalding type golf clubs back in those days. Horrible things. I had a set of Greg Norman spec. I used to hit the 7 iron about 120 yards. They were just horrible. They had so much loft on them, they were so stiff, went nowhere. Especially with that old Spalding Tour Edition ball. That was just like hitting a marshmallow. Don't worry, Greg. I've got to tell you guys, absolutely no exaggeration, I can hit the ball better with any golf club than that. So what that is saying is it's a great indictment of this golf swing. This golf club is completely outside my spec, and yet that ball flight's just unbelievable. And I feel like I'm doing this. And we'll have a look down range. No clouds today, but the sun is still very high. And I said that I'm going to stay here one day till it gets almost really late in the day, and I'm going to hit some shots down, because sometimes we get the sun setting and it's brilliant orange light, and maybe we can get some really good And people say, JH, why don't you use a shot track tracer? Guys, I'm not a tech guy. I never do that stuff. I know you guys will say, but I could always tell, and even when I fitted people, I never used TrackMan or anything like that. I could just look at the ball flight and know what had to be done with the golf club to suit that person. I can just do that. They could stand behind a shield and I wouldn't see them, and see the ball come out, and I know exactly what I have to do with the golf club. Wouldn't even have to see them swing. Just a slight, only slight drag, couple of yards. Just choked off the backswing. Good contact. Woo! Was it ever? Okay, last shot. Come on, Jay. Just good. See if I can just get a little pause before we stop. And then I'll hit the rest of those balls down range. Go and change the camera around a little bit. They were all great, every one of those, with the exception of the one where I lost my grip. Okay guys, so the, the whole gist of this is, what are we doing? We're turning this as anti-clockwise as we can. What does that do? If I turn that like that, look where the club goes. If I turn, look where it goes. Club can't go inside if you turn. You can't get that in there if you turn your hand like that. You can't. That club head won't go in there. Can't do it. But if you do that, you can. If you do that, you can. If you do that, you can't. You can't get that club head in there. It stays out there. We saw this. Learning every day, guys. Just a little bit every day. Okay. I'll just have a look at that camera, see where it is, and we'll hit some down here with the 4 on, if I can get in position.